there will be people who go through bad placements. It might be you, in which case you should reach out for help, but, and speak about the problems that you have with somebody else. With 100% certainty, one of your friends, your very close friends, is not going to get a placement in the first day, second day, third day, and they're going to be very unhappy, and probably depression, in the clinical sense of the word, is going to hit. And if you can be there for them then, that's going to take you a long way further, and probably ready you for when in the workplace those ups and downs are going to come, and difficult conversations are going to come your way. You will know what to do about it, and you'll allow people to lean on your shoulders at those critical times. So the great thing that IIM is going to do is they're going to peg exactly where you are. You're going to learn, this is my OCAD here, which allows you to understand how much want is correct for you. And I'm not saying you should, live a sannyasi's life, but do you really need 3 cars? No, I came here with a bicycle. That's the person I am. In IIM Indore, at certain points, because of the troughs and the emotional highs and lows, there were times when I was depressed, in the clinical term of depression, and I didn't reach out for help. And I really should have done that. I think people would have helped me. But I thought, I can tackle this by myself, and I had this bravado, which there was no need. There are 2 lessons that you can learn from that. Number 1 is, if you find yourself in that state, definitely ask for help from your friends.
बस जॉब चल रही है यार।
जब जॉब और करियर बस चलता है, then this is how the entire day looks like. करियर को बस चलाओ नहीं, भगाओ भी. Log on to altuni.in. Earn more at your current job or get a new one that does. Learn from experts, work on life industry projects, and get high-paying job opportunities. Find the link in description.
When you're doing your exercises together as teams, and it's important to give everybody, whether they're strong or weak, something that they can reach up to achieve that is going to be useful for them. And that leadership lesson is something that they don't usually instruct you towards, but will be very helpful. And if it will create more free time, assuming you are the smartest person in that group, it will create so much more free time for you to delve yourself into the things that are important to you.
How do you become a better manager? Keeping art at the center stage is something that I want to know from you. And how has that helped you? I mean, because, that also teaches you a lot of things that your day-to-day work does not, right? And how have you looked at it?
Many parts of art, let's take literature as an easy example, is about emotions, is about putting yourself into somebody else's feet, is to try to experience things from their worldview. That definitely builds empathy. And I am for sure not the smartest person. I am probably not the most hardworking person in the teams that I'm in, but I bring oodles of empathy to the table. And as you get more and more senior, as you go to the upper echelons, you'll realize that many people up there are sociopaths. They really don't have any empathy at all. 4 reasons. There is this pressure that is put on them, and I'm sure there'll be a pressure that's going to be put on you. You really have to carve out the time and energy. Empathy takes energy. It's not as if you're naturally born, and if you're not predisposed to empathy, it's going to mean that you're going to have to practice it and get better at it by practicing it. And campus is a good place to do that, because there will be people who go through bad placements. It might be you, in which case you should reach out for help, but, and speak about the problems that you have with somebody else. With 100% certainty, one of your friends, your very close friends, is not going to get a placement in the first day, second day, third day, and they're going to be very unhappy, and probably depression, in the clinical sense of the word, is going to hit. And if you can be there for them then, that's going to take you a long way further, and probably ready you for when in the workplace those ups and downs are going to come, and difficult conversations are going to come your way. You will know what to do about it, and you'll allow people to lean on your shoulders at those critical times. And I know this seems like it's very far different from the art space, but there is a very direct linkage, I think, between being able to write a script from a certain person's perspective and being able to put yourself into what somebody else is going through and provide them with not a solution which is a numbers-based solution or a financial-based solution, but a emotionally invested solution that will bring them up in their motivation or give them a better solution to what they're going through.
Tell us a little bit, Ronaan, now in terms of the responsibilities that you have, right, in your shoulders. How big a team do you handle? How far have you reached in life? And do you ever go back to your IIM Indore days and think that maybe if I have not chosen this path, I would have been, on a path that my friend is right now, maybe making millions of dollars consulting companies worldwide?
That's going to happen. You're always going to think that. You're always going to look at the best person in the batch and say, hey, I'm not the best person in the batch, and I don't see a difference between him and me, and I could have done that. And that's a slippery slope. It's also a carrot that is used very often in organizations. They say, you know what, the L5 target, this is the carrot, this dangles in front of you, and you're going to always chase towards that carrot. And let me tell you right now that the carrot is a lie in the same, it doesn't, you can never achieve that. Even the person who is the best in the batch, who has got that job, is going to look at somebody else and say, hey, you know what, that could have been me. Don't go there. By dint of where you guys are now, you are in the top quartile of earnings for sure already. It's a reality of that fact. You are never going to struggle for food. You're probably going to always, even if you are the worst placed in your batch, afford international holidays. Your child, if you choose to have children who wants to become a tennis superstar, you'll probably have the infrastructure and the money to support even their most expensive hobbies. So having achieved all of that, is it really worthwhile thinking about, hey, that guy who is making, more than me and they're already making a crore and I don't make a crore yet? Is that really worthwhile? No. So there's wants and then there's what you are. And to peg yourself, so the great thing that IIM is going to do is they're going to peg exactly where you are. You're going to learn, this is my OCAD here, which allows you to understand how much want is correct for you. And I'm not saying you should, live a sannyasi's life, but do you really need 3 cars? No, I came here with a bicycle. That's the person I am. What is good for you is where you should aim for and not always think of the missing element in your mind, is my view on that.
Fantastic. I'm not going to ask you any more questions. I'm going to open this floor to the audience. If they have any questions, if they want to ask you anything.
I'm an engineer who does not have any experience in marketing and who does want to pursue marketing. So there is this sense of apprehension that is associated with this line of role that marketing में तो directly marketing roles नहीं मिलेगा, starting में sales करना पड़ेगा. So like you have to be like a salesman, door to door sales or whatever. I know there's a negative atmosphere around this thing. Like, what are your views on that?
First of all, think about why you may not want to do sales. I would be very bad at sales, even though I've done a quasi-sales stint right at the beginning. If you are against sales because you think it's going to be hard work, that's the wrong reasons. You should embrace sales if that's the case, because hard work will teach you a lot. The reason why they say sales first is because at some point of time, if you are a CMO, you are going to make decisions which is going to directly affect the sales team. And if you have not gone through sales, you will not understand the ability and what needs to be pushed in order to do that. And that's why they're telling you to start off with sales. But the learning from sales, unfortunately, is limited. So if you get an organization which says, we're going to make you do sales for a year, and then we're going to pull you out of that and do something else, that's what you should gun for. And you should probably gun for that if you're trying to get into a marketing or a branding role. There are marketing roles which do not require sales. They are going to lead to perhaps less of the amount of brand value that your entire brand will have at the end of the year. That might decrease if you don't have that sales experience. But if you get FMCG experience, then you should embrace that. Before you embrace sales experience, it's an obvious, it's a no-brainer. And I would say if you are coming from an engineering background and going into marketing, remember that there is no one right answer. There are several right answers, and you will never be able to tell which of those right answers would really work. It's kind of like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. So fail fast, fail early, train your intuition, and watch a lot of ads. There's a website called shorts.com or .net, which curates ads. By watching those ads, you'll probably get a good idea of the ads that work and the ads that don't work, because it's very difficult to look at a script, imagine an ad, and realize whether that's going to lead to business or not lead to business. And gaining that instinct is one of the harder things to learn.
I'm an architect, so I talk with my clients, and like it's a very collaborative environment. So when I'm designing something, designing a project, so it's very collaborative. But as a manager, you'll have that research center and all, where you'll be taking insights out of surveys and people, right? So how do you really understand the pain points coming out of the ground?
I think you already know the answer, which is that you have to talk to people and you have to have deep conversations with people. A survey is good for reinforcing what you know and double checking things. But if you were to find pain points, you have to be a person who, in a short span of time, somebody who is not familiar with you is able to confide that, this is the real issue at the center of things. To give you an example that I haven't been able to do anything with, a lot of farmers don't save money. And I was always wondering why farmers don't save money. And the reason behind that, which somebody confided to me once, and then I was able to verify that across, is that if a farmer's income is known to the entire village, so if they've done well, the rest of the village knows, which means that the rest of the village is likely to borrow from him. So if he hasn't spent that money in building his house or doing something else, that money is probably going to be borrowed and therefore is probably going to evaporate, which is why he doesn't save money. Now, I wouldn't get that insight unless I have shared my salary with a lot of people, because if I don't share something vulnerable about myself, then I'm going to share something back. So those deep conversations, and you'll probably go through with design thinking how to have those deep, insightful conversations, which is another lecture which is going to take a long time, which I won't get into right now.
Hi, Ronaan. Talking about marketing and sales, what are the 5 core human values that you look in a stellar performer, or maybe, let's say you were into rural sales. So as an overall performer, what are the 5 core values that I should inculcate, or anybody that you're looking at as a recruiter?
Forget about marketing and sales, I think in general. Smart at this point of time with the room that we're sitting in is a given. And over smart is a problem. So you'd need, if I were recruiting people, I try to find humble people first, which people who are able to state their negatives as opposed to hide their negatives is something that I find very valuable. So, and humility is great for learning and getting insights of the type that I'm talking about, which is core to trying to figure out the mind of a customer, which is again core to marketing, but also helpful in many other things. If you're going to look for people who are hard workers. Hard workers tend to be self-starters. People who are not likely to take shortcuts, who have an ownership of what you're trying to achieve. And you can develop that ownership with them with sufficient inspiration or making sure that they're on the right path. So these 2 things, I haven't given you 5, I'm sorry about that. I've given you 3 things, including smart. Smart is a given, like a lot of people are, you're not going to find somebody's CV will not arrive on your table without that. So I know that you guys are among the smartest in India as per an exam, and there's a lot of people who would really, really kill to be in your shoes. But don't take that for granted. It's definitely going to open doors for you. It's definitely going to be a fallback trampoline that if you falter, you're never going to be out of a job because of the degree that you have. But success is going to come from more things than just that.
When we go for a job, when we are selected in a company, how do we find out, what points do we look at when we self-assess ourselves? That, okay, this is the path that I want to, embark on. And if this is not the path, what should we do to, switch things around a bit? And my second question is, what is Mahindra's policy about diversity and inclusion? Do you have any success stories of it?
All right, I'll handle the second question first because I think it'll be shorter, and then I'll get to a longer answer on the first question, which requires more detail. Diversity and inclusion in Mahindra and in many companies now is something that they prioritize. Mahindra specifically, I'll give you the example of people who are hearing impaired. Not only is the job assessed for them, but also their career growth is assessed for them. So they should be able to grow in their career to the next aspiration, and their disability should not be an impairment in what they are doing next. And that's something that is taken seriously. I wish we could do more. There is a fine line between just doing it for name's sake and just slapping a sticker onto a genuine problem and getting it done, as opposed to going to a depth to which it could be a person from a different community. It could be a person who is of an age that the job is not suitable for. It could be ex-army men who have a very difficult time finding jobs. Making sure that they're comfortable in the scenario that they're in all the spheres that they have to deal with, including language barriers, is something that the Mahindra Group at least takes a lot of care over. And I'm happy to report that I think that they do quite well in that regard. Could we do more in terms of religious diversity and gender diversity? Yes, but definitely the focus on these areas is there. Coming to your first question on jobs and how do you know that the job that is there for you is the right job? You're going to stumble into your first job. I think you still have the campus if you're placed and you're out of the placement process. Most campuses still have that, yeah? Two things. One, as soon as you're in your first job, it's like tasting corporate life, unless you've worked before. You should have a good grasp on corporate life and see whether the job works for you or whether you want to switch. But more than that, you are the people who are also going to be part of that placement cell. There's one thing to think that, you know what, let placement cell handle it and they'll do a good job and I'm just going to sit back and, people are going to come to me. If you want, for example, an oddball career choice, that placement cell is not going to give it to you. The placement cell will help bring the McKinseys to campus. They will not bring a job with Steven Spielberg to campus that I know that Paul wants, right? And because he's this oddly shaped object, like I was an oddly shaped object. Or if you're applying internationally, that's just not worth the placement cell's time to find an international job that's going to come to campus and interview you. So those are jobs that you're going to hunt for yourself. Your career is in your keeping. It's not the jurisdiction of somebody else, both in terms of the placement cell and later on, let's say you join a TAS or a GMC program and you think, okay, my career is going to be handled for me. That's not the case. It's going to be you trying to decide what's best for you and finding those jobs. So A, get into the placement cell because you will definitely have greater leverage of taking care of everybody on campus. You can change the rules. The rules that are first placed and then out is a hangover of a system that is from the 2008 recession. Pre-2008, they didn't do that. And it's a student-imposed rule. It's not a government-imposed rule. So you can choose to change that rule. And the previous system that was there, which is that you would have, I might be wrong about this, but we can find that out. You would have 2 days of day zero placement activity, something like that. And you would do about 20 interviews, and then you'd have 5 offers, and then you can choose among those 5 offers. That is a better system, and that's probably a system that you can bring now since the market is buoyant. So you might want to look into that by the time you guys are into placement. I hope that answers your question.
Irrespective of what tier the college lies in, there's always this degree that's MBA in marketing, right? There's no MBA in sales. So during this 2 years course, where do these sales skills come from?
So there are people who get hardcore into sales and then they think they have this worldview that sales is actually all you do in any membership of business. So if you are often selling an idea or selling to a venture capital or selling something else, so being able to take the product proposition and make that something that is needed or wanted by the customer, either by changing the product or the spiel that you're giving in sales, I would say the spiel is not going to work if the product is not good, so focus on that to start with. Marketing is within that gamut. Sales in India at least is thought to be a lot more running around and, it's in the supermarket. You used to be the person who used to select hummus and not buy, and now you're suddenly offering hummus from person to person, and out of those people, maybe 1 out of 100 people will buy. That can be what sales is like, depending on the product. it teaches you a lot that a MBA cannot teach you, which is a high failure rate and a tolerance for failure, which, because we've all gone through an academic career and we're probably all superstars of academic career, apart from me in this room, you are not you've not had experience. And that is the reality of life rather than mostly success. You asked a question around, does MBA teach you about sales? It does not. MBA degrees around the world are actually supposed to be after your first job. For about 4 years. So the Ragrao part of it is supposed to have been taught to you by life. And then the MBA is supposed to teach you how to become a leader. There are many things that you are going to learn which is not going to be applicable for you for 10 years of your life because they are really leadership lessons. But your aspiration should definitely be for that 10th year and not for the first year. And you're not going to be able to learn those things later, so grasp those now. MBA and any education doesn't prepare you for sales, unfortunately.
What would you have changed in all these years that you have spent in your life that you look back and thought that maybe I could have done this to make my life better?
A very broad question, but I'm also going to try to focus that into the next 2 years that you guys have. So again, hopefully that you can learn from my mistakes. In IIM Indore, at certain points, because of the troughs and the emotional highs and lows, there were times when I was depressed in the clinical term of depression, and I didn't reach out for help. And I really should have done that. I think people would have helped me, but I thought, I can tackle this by myself, and I had this bravado, which there was no need. There are 2 lessons that you can learn from that. Number 1 is, if you find yourself in that state, definitely ask for help from your friends. Maybe it will happen, and you don't have to bear that brunt alone, and it can be quite difficult, but people will help you. Number 2 is, there are going to be people, like I was, locked in their room and not coming out, and you're just thinking, oh, they just want to be alone. Knock on their doors. Find out if they're fine. It's really going to help them, and that's probably going to help you as well in the long run.
Superb. Thank you very much, Ronaan, for sharing your story.
You must be thinking another pre-roll? Wait, let me just skip it. With all theory, there are some boring things which you can avoid, like the long wait for promotions or increments, or the numerous interviews before you land your dream job. At All Tuni, we make sure that you're future ready and skilled to be in the top 0.5% club. Click on the link in the description now.